Quebec's historic Eastern Townships. Where do I start? Well, we have outstanding landscapes, tons of local products and services, so many great places to live, play, work, and visit. Now, if you're an English speaker living in the townships, or if you're maybe thinking about moving here, well, this new web series is for you. Hi there, my name is Ed Humphrey, and I'm with Townshippers Association. Now, you may have heard of us. We're a non-profit, non-partisan community organization, and we've been working with and for the English-speaking communities of the Eastern Townships since about 1979. So it's been quite a while now. Now, there's no doubt about it. The townships are a fantastic place to live. That said, though, getting access to certain services in English can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. And that's why we've created this new web series. So through a variety of interviews and exposés, we're going to introduce you to organizations and individuals that provide services to the English-speaking communities. So we'll be touching on fields that range from health and social services to employment, entrepreneurship, the arts, education, and well, the list is huge. So it'll be a great chance for you to learn new things about the organizations you already know, and it'll be an opportunity to discover new services. And for this first episode, we thought it would be a great idea to talk about the organization that I work for. So I recently sat down with Rachel Hunting, Executive Director of Townshippers Association. And here's our discussion. Well, hi, Rachel. Thanks very much for accepting my invitation.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Well, I'm going to start off with a kind of a pretty direct question. Now, we're talking about 4 decades of community engagement. I mean, that's a lot to say for any organization. Nonetheless, a community organization. Now, I'm sure a lot of people know about Townshippers and about what we do, and maybe some people just know about the annual Townshippers Festival that we do. Maybe you could take a couple of minutes to talk to us about the objectives of the association.
Sure. Townshippers Association has a mission that covers 3 points. We work on behalf of the English-speaking community in the historical Eastern Townships to promote their interests, their cultural identity, strengthen their sense of self, and promote their full participation in Quebec society at large. So how do we accomplish that? We act as a reference point for both community members and community stakeholders for a great many things that touch on the English-speaking community in the Eastern Townships. I wouldn't say all things because our region is super fortunate in that it's well developed and it has a higher capacity to meet the needs of the English-speaking community. So we don't offer direct services. We work with partners in local communities who offer the direct services. So that's why I don't say we do all things English-speaking community, but we do many things. And for community and politicians, municipalities, stakeholders alike, we're a reference point.
So as a reference point, is there any particular clientele that Townshippers works with or for in particular, whether it's in the, is it the seniors, is it youth, or?
I would say that the way that we do our work has changed in probably the last 5 years or so. It's not necessarily geared towards a specific demographic the way it has been in the past. Some of our community members may be very familiar with programs that we've run in the past that have been specifically geared towards seniors or specifically geared towards youth. We do still have programs that touch on those populations, absolutely. But what we're noticing with our different funders is vulnerability doesn't necessarily choose a demographic or a certain population, right? So in the last 5 years, there's been a bit of a shift to stop working necessarily on behalf of a certain age group or gender or very specific population, and work more holistically around the different things in our systems that lead people to be vulnerable, whether they're women, whether they're children, whether they're seniors. So we do work on behalf of different populations, but I wouldn't say that we have programs that are geared specifically for one group over another. It's more focused on vitality for vulnerable communities.
Well, that being said, then I guess we could say that it touches on a lot of bases. So whether it's health or whether it's social services or employment, would that be safe to
Yep.
say?
Health, education, social services, employment. One of the biggest differences for the English-speaking community in Quebec versus the Francophone communities in other provinces is that because the provinces have jurisdiction over health, education, and immigration, we really rely on those sectors to increase the vitality and even the demographic weight of our communities. So because the English-speaking community is not recognized officially in the same way as our Francophone counterparts are in some of the other provinces, we have a bit more challenges in those zones. So we work across sectors, but our work might be a little bit different than what you would see in some of the other provinces. We have similar challenges, but we don't necessarily have the same programs or recognition at the provincial level. I'm not saying that we don't in some areas, but it's a good comparison, but there are slight nuances there that are important to remember.
And we're talking about serving the historic Eastern Townships. Well, that's a huge region. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it's about the size of Belgium, I think.
Yeah.
So how does Townshippers serve such a huge region?
We drive a lot.
Okay.
We try to be strategic where and go where we're needed the most. So every few years we do a strategic planning exercise, which we're actually going to start doing in the middle of this year for our next plan. But what we'll do is we'll do a few needs assessments. We'll talk to community partners. We'll talk to community members and other organizations to see where their preoccupations are, to see where the gaps in services that they've noted are, and then really try to focus our efforts on where people are telling us we're the most needed. Sometimes we will initiate something because we've had access to research or data that will point in a certain direction. And sometimes a community partner will point something out on the ground and say, hey, can you help? Is there an envelope that you know about? Or is there a part of your program that we could use to work on a specific need or a specific issue? So we may not be as active in parts of our region that have a lot of community organizations that are well developed and working on the ground. We might focus our areas more on organizations that want to develop their offer of service for Anglophones. And we might be working with other groups who have a significant offer but want to take it to the next level.
Okay, so now I'm aware that I'm aware we've got two offices. We have an office in Lennoxville and we have an office in Knowlton. Now,
Yeah.
if we're talking about this big region, which is the townships, how do the operations at one office, say, compare to the operations in the other? How is that spread out?
The Sherbrooke office, which is in the borough of Lennoxville, is really the head office. So it's like the central hub for all things that are Townshippers. And then our office in Knowlton is a satellite office, and it's primarily the home of our Montérégie East Health and Social Services team. So the Eastern Townships Partners for Health and Social Services has two networks in our area. We've got the S3 network, which works in the 05 administrative region. And then we have our Montérégie East network, which works in two parts of the 16 Montérégie administrative region. And that's the Ochemaska and La Pommeraye areas. So we've got two of our health and social services agents that work out of that office. And every once in a while, I'm in that office, and every once in a while, you're in that office. So some of our projects are focused on specific MRCs or a specific part of the administrative regions. And then some of them have a regional mandate. It really depends on what the specific program or project is.
Okay. And you've talked about partners a few times. So when we're talking about partners, who are we referring to? I mean, not all that, we don't need a list of all the partners, but what do you mean by partners?
We have, I would say we have a couple of different categories of partners. We have funders, so we have financial partners. They can be government, so federal, provincial. We could have private partners who are private enterprise, who will also support the organization financially. And then we have community partners, so other organizations that either have a regional mandate, so they're at work in the townships as well. They may be at work in the townships for both the French-speaking and English-speaking community. They may be at work for just the English-speaking community, and they may be at work for just the French-speaking community, but they may be addressing a vulnerable population that has similar characteristics and needs to ours. So it's always a good idea to put heads together and see what everybody's doing and work off of those best practices. I would say that the biggest strength is because our mandate is regional, it's kind of our job to know what everybody's up to. And one of the biggest roles we play is putting groups in touch with each other, because our knowledge base includes, what they're up to. So if you're in a meeting with partners and you're talking about developing a program and somebody around the table has done something similar, then you can put those groups together and they can benefit from each other's expertise. And they don't necessarily have to know, what's going on from one end of the region or to the other. They can focus on their local population, and they can still benefit from all the good work and all the good ideas that are going on around them.
Okay, well, in fact, we kind of experienced that recently. You and I were talking about a certain project and a possible project, and we talked about how we could work with that particular partner in the beginning, and then bring in other partners, and then, if need be, we could kind of pull back later on and let them continue to work together and strengthen that partnership, and then we could go on and make other. It's kind of like reproducing all these great little projects.
Yeah, or just kind of adding links to the chain, right? And I would say if I had to say, what service does Townshippers offer, I would say information and referral, an abundance of knowledge, and really the ability to put one group together with another group and maximize those benefits for sure.
Okay.
And like you were saying, we have spearheaded initiatives in the past, and we will in the future, but really only if it's a recognized need that nobody's really filling at that time. And we won't take it on by ourselves. We'll take it on in partnership with groups on the ground that we hope will be able to take it on after an initial startup phase. And that's really one of our strengths as well, is doing a pilot, but running an evaluation, pulling out those best practices, pulling out those necessary parts, and then having that knowledge base and that data behind it. So when we're ready to make a full ask in a funding application, we've got a solid base.
Which is a super responsible way to move forward on any project, whether it's a business or a project, or that's all kind of a little mini business plan, right?
I'm a firm believer in, if you don't have data, you just have an opinion. So, we all know what's going on in our communities and on the ground. We're the front line for what the needs are in the community. But for the funders to be able to justify investing public money in those needs, they need that data. They need us to be able to, to show that that situation we've known about for the last 10 years can exist on paper. So that's a way that our organization can be of benefit to smaller groups and other groups as well. If you don't have the resources to generate your own data, there's a very good chance that Townshippers either has that data somewhere in some format, or can access it for you through partners at Stats Can, through partners at the Community Health and Social Services Network, the Quebec Community Groups Network as well. We all share data, and there's a lot of it out there. So that's something that I think we're very good at.
Well, and another benefit to that is the ABCs of project management, is where we're responsible we answer to our funders, right, and to the community, mm-hmm. But we have to make sure that our ducks in a row, and that we did what we said we would do, and we explored it as far as we could, and that we've put things in order. That's often what funders, not often, it's always what funders are looking for as well, right?
Absolutely. And I think that that's where the strategic planning exercise is really important, because every 5 years we stop and we ask the community, are the objectives we've been working on for the last 5 years still your priority objectives? Have they changed? Are there, directions that you want us to go in? We're their community organization. So it's really important for us to stop and take everybody's temperature. And, do we continue, or, do we need to make some adjustments and work in new areas?
So we're talking a bit about community, and with that in mind, if we talk about the English-speaking community as a whole, I know it's sometimes hard to generalize, but moving forward, and these are, I like to call these kind of my top threes. So
Mhm.
what would you say are the top three strengths of the English speaking community? Now we're talking about the entire, Eastern Townships. But what would be in your mind the top three strengths of our community?
I think that we're close knit. We're a community that knows each other well. I often have this conversation with partners in the Francophone sector. They have the impression that everyone knows each other in the Eastern Townships in the English-speaking community, and it's not an errant observation. I often posit it's because we all attended one of 3 regional high schools. So we do sort of know each other, and we may have gone to school together or played against each other in a sporting event maybe growing up. But we're a close-knit community that takes care of each other. We're a resilient community. I think that any group of people who find themselves in a rural or semi-rural environment has a bit of resiliency going for them, and we're adaptable. And I think that's really important. And I think we're really seeing the strengths of our community right now in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, because we've had to adapt. We've had to, work with new realities, and we've had to kind of turn on a dime in some cases and keep going and making sure that those vulnerable members of our community are looked after and taken care of. So I think that that's really a big source of pride for our community. We take care of each other, and it's historical.
But of course,
Yeah.
if you talk about the strengths,
Mm-hmm.
we have to kind of talk about some of the challenges. So what would you say
Yeah.
are 3 of the most important challenges facing the English speaking community?
Access, in the broadest sense of the word, access. Confidence. We need to be more confident in ourselves as English members of Quebec society, but as speakers of French. We need to kind of shake off maybe some of our fears about using our second language and just put ourselves out there a bit more as a people. And opportunity as well is a challenge, and that goes with access. The 3 kind of go hand in hand, similar to our assets, right? They're all intertwined. But what our community struggles with is having access to opportunities, having access to information, and then having that confidence to put themselves out there sometimes in Quebec society. So I would say that's what a few of our challenges.
Okay, I know there are more. I mean, there's more strengths and there's more challenges
Oh,
as
for
well.
sure.
But we concentrate on the 3 most important ones.
Yeah.
And so now another power of 3. What are 3 of the best ways that someone can use to get in touch with Townshippers?
Become a member.
There we go. That's a good one. I hadn't thought of that one.
If you become a member, I didn't think of it at first either. If you become a member, then you inherently get all our stuff. And by all our stuff, I mean, you'll be signed up for our monthly newsletter, you'll get our twice yearly magazine, and you'll just have a general open access to the organization. If you're not somebody who likes to join things and be a member of stuff, which I understand, it's different, everyone's different with their approach to belonging to something. You can still benefit from all of our information online, townshippers.org. Everything's there. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have a big social media presence. And then you can also, you can download our magazine that's published twice a year if you're not a member, but about 4 to 6 months after it comes out. And you can access our monthly newsletter just by signing up without being a member. So
Okay,
there's a lot of ways to stay in touch with Townshippers.
What I'll do is I'll put all the information up on the at the end of the segment, and but I just want to jump back very quickly to the newsletter. So some people don't really use internet, or they don't have access to internet. So we can also send that out by mail.
Not the monthly newsletter.
No? Okay.
No, the monthly newsletter is just a digital newsletter. We don't have the resources, human resources and printing resources to send that out monthly. But our magazine is printed and mailed out for anyone who you can choose, basically, if you want to have the print version or if you want to have the digital version. Those are available as well. And for non-internet folk, we do have the CIDI radio program in the Knowlton area. And we also are working on developing a radio presence with CJMQ in the other end of the estuary. So stay tuned for those shows coming up.
That'll be a good trio, right? We'll have the radio show we already have the radio show in Knowlton. We'll have a new radio show out of Lennoxville. And with this new web series, we want to be able to reach another crowd as well. And
we'll cover more of our bases.
There you go. Well, once again, thanks again. And I assume we're going to be talking soon. So have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye. There you go. The first episode of our new web series about Townshippers. If you'd like more information about Townshippers Association, well, please visit our website, our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Twitter. So thanks a lot for being there with us today, and we'll see you next time.